Lady Vols, Kellie Harper, over the weekend.
2 big games, 2 big moments. College game day in town for Tennessee, UConn, and Tennessee gets blown out. Guys, it's time to start talking about Kellie Harper's hot seat. I really like her and what she did for the Lady Vols. She won 3 national championships in 4 years, although, again, that's like Derek Fisher winning 5 rings with the Lakers if you look at how loaded those teams were back then. This is her 4th year on the job. And, they had and she was cursed by injuries last year. I understand that. And they did make the Sweet 16. But this year, yes, Tamari Key got hurt. It wasn't like they had fallen out of the top 25 by the time Tamari Key got hurt. She built this team for depth. They were a top 5 team to start the year. I don't really want to hear from anybody that it's hard to live up to Pat Summitt's legacy. It's hard to do this, or Kellie Harper won a national championship playing for Tennessee. Look at the recruits that are on this team. There's 5 stars all over the place, by the way. Look at what they're doing right now. This isn't about living up to Pat Summitt's legacy. This is about living up to the recruiting classes that came to this team that you put together, and it's in your 4th year, and it's just not cutting it. And I think we're seeing a lot of obsession with, women's college basketball has also turned into stretching the floor a little bit now. A lot more 3-point shooting, at least mid-range shooting now in the sport. And you're seeing a commitment from Kellie Harper to the style of play that won Pat Summitt 8 national championships. Well, that style doesn't exist anymore in women's basketball. You can't have 2 tall, lengthy post players that can't come out and defend the stretch 4, or that can't stretch at least a little bit from the basket on offense to shoot. You just can't do that anymore. And I think the Lady Vols are living and dying by a brand that doesn't exist.
No, Elias says they failed to improve over the course of 4 years. It's a matter of when, not if. Pull the plug. I tend to agree with that. And listen, I would not hire anybody that had even met Pat Summitt. And it's not a knock on Pat Summitt. It's just any tie to her just reminds everybody of how great things are. And here's the simple fact. It's never going to be like that again. And it's not because just the absence of Pat Summitt. Pardon me. Pat Summitt helped, excuse me, build a sport to the point that it is pretty impossible to dominate like she did. That's not going to be the case. You go into a typical season in the 90s, and there were sometimes 1, in the case of 98, her team. There were 2, there were 3, maybe 4 at the most teams that could really win a title. Otherwise, it was a massive upset. Nowadays, there are 12, 14, 16. There are a lot more teams that can win a national title in the women's game. So Pat Summitt helped build that and get that to the point that she wanted it to. So Pat Summitt, if she were still coaching today, God rest her soul, would probably be frustrated when she didn't win a championship. But I hope that deep down she would say to herself, I helped build this sport to where it's not just 1 or 2 teams, Tennessee and UConn, year in and year out. And it's not. And it hasn't been. And that's just absolute kudos to her and what she did for the sport. It was self-sacrificing, as it turned out, from Tennessee's perspective.